But if one accepts that satisfaction is something positive, then our wish fulfillment is not only the elimination of a negative state by a corresponding positive one, enhanced by a feeling of happiness, rather, the relation of the wish to its fulfillment is an infinitely diverse one, because the wish almost never allows for all aspects of the object and its effect upon us. Reality almost never corresponds to the wish as a category of possibility of wanting to possess. The trivial wisdom that the possession of something we wanted usually disappoints us is, for better or worse, correct, and we become conscious of this otherness in possession only as a fact unaccompanied by any feelings. However, money takes on an exceptional position in this respect. On the one hand, it pushes to its limit any incommensurability between the wish and its object. Any endeavor that has been focused on money only finds in it something completely indeterminate, something that cannot satisfy a reasonable demand and to which we have no specific relation because it has no substance. If our wish does not extend beyond money towards a concrete goal, then a deadly disappointment must follow. Such a disappointment will always be experienced where monetary wealth, which has been passionately desired and considered an unquestionable happiness, reveals what it really is after. It has been acquired. Money is merely a means whose elevation to an ultimate purpose cannot survive after it has been acquired. Whereas here the greatest discrepancy between wish and fulfillment exists, the exact reverse takes place if the psychological character of money as a final purpose has become permanently solidified and greed, too, has become a chronic condition. In this case, where the desired object is supposed to grant nothing but its possession, and where this limitation of desire is not only a passing self-deception, every disappointment is dropped. All objects that we want to possess are expected to achieve something for us once we own them. The often tragic, often humorous incommensurability between wish and fulfillment is due to the inadequate anticipation of this achievement of which I have just spoken. But money is not expected to achieve anything for the greedy person over and above its mere ownership. We know more about money than about any other object because there is nothing to be known about money, and so it cannot hide anything from us. It is a thing absolutely lacking in qualities and therefore cannot, as can even the most pitiful object, conceal within itself any surprises or disappointments. Whoever really and definitely only wants money is absolutely safe from such experiences. The general human weakness to rate what is longed for differently compared with what is attained reaches its apogee in greed for money because such greed only fulfills consciousness of purpose in an illusory and untenable fashion. On the other hand, this weakness is completely removed as soon as the will is really completely satisfied by the ownership of money. If we desire to arrange human destiny according to the scheme of relationship between the wish and its object, then we must concede that, in terms of the final point in the sequence of purposes, money is the most inadequate but also the most adequate object of our endeavors. The powerful character of money, to which I again return, appears at its most noticeable, at the least at its most uncanny, wherever the money economy is not yet completely established and accepted, and where money displays its compelling power in relations that are structurally antagonistic. The reason why money seems to have reached the pinnacle of its power at the highest stage of culture is due to the fact that innumerable, formerly unknown objects are now at its disposal, but from the very outset they are concerned with being obedient to money. There is nothing of that friction that the whole type and mode of evaluation of more natural conditions opposes to the alien nature of money, and whose elimination the consciousness of power must particularly be concerned with. Since money is the value of values, an expert of Indian life terms the Indian village banker, the money lender, the man of all men in the village. His Indian name means the great man. It has been emphasized that, when larger amounts of capital were first amassed during the 13th century, capital became a means of power which was as yet unknown to the mass of the people. Thus, to this effect was added the psychological compensation of the unprecedented and the super-empirical. Quite apart from the fact that the church and the people considered money transactions completely objectionable, even a patrician from Cologne in the 13th century confessed to support the clerical principle, Mercator sine peccamine vix esse potest, the utilization of such a mysterious and dangerous power as capital necessarily appeared as immoral, as criminal misuse. Just as so often the mistaken prejudices promote their justification, so the descendants of the trading aristocracy of that period indulged in a ruthless misuse of their power, whose form and extent was possible only because of the novelty of monetary capital and the freshness of its impact on relationships that were differently organized. Thus it was that the masses, from the Middle Ages right up to the 19th century, thought that there was something wrong with the origin of great fortunes and that their owners were rather sinister personalities. Tales of horror spread about the origin of the Grinaldi, the Medici, and the Rothschild fortunes, not only in the sense of moral duplicity, but in a superstitious way, as if a demonic spirit was at work. In so far as the contradictory types of capacities embodied in money lend it a sublimated sense of power before it is spent, the fruitful moment has, as it were, come to a halt. Avarice is one form of the will to power that is not transformed in its exercise and its enjoyment, thereby illuminating the character of money as an absolute means. This is an important factor in explaining the avarice of old age. Such a tendency certainly may be expedient as provision for the next generation, although this motive is usually not in the mind of the miser, since the older he gets the less he is willing to part with his treasures. Subjectively, what is basic in old age is that, on the one hand, the sensual enjoyment of life has lost its charm, and on the other the ideals lose their agitating power through disenchantment and lack of nerve. Thus there remains, as the last goal of the will and of life, only the power that manifests itself partly in the inclination of old people to tyrannize and in a mania for influence on the part of elderly people in high positions. In part, however, this results in avarice because the same abstract power seems to be embodied in the possession of money. I consider it a mistake to envisage every miser as being busy with the anticipation of all available enjoyments, all the attractive possible uses of money. Rather, the purest form of avarice is that in which the will does not really go beyond money, nor is money treated as a means for something else, not even in the imagination. On the contrary, the power that money stored up represents is experienced as the final and absolutely satisfying value. For the miser, all other goods lie at the periphery of existence, and from each of them a straight road leads to the center, to money,